Hey, my name's Wyatt. I'm 28 years old, born and raised right here in Maplewood, a small mountain town in Vermont. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and nothing much changes from one season to the next. My whole life has been tied to Freeman's Garage, the family auto shop that my grandfather built with his own hands back in the 1950s. He started it after the war, fixing up old Fords for the locals. My dad took it over when Grandpa retired, kept it running smooth until he passed away from a heart attack when I was just 22. Now it's all on me. I open the doors every morning at dawn, greet the same regulars, Doc Jenkins with his rusty pickup, Miss Miller the school teacher in her reliable Subaru, even the town sheriff dropping off his cruiser for an oil change. Lunch is usually a sandwich I slap together on my cluttered desk, surrounded by invoices stained with grease marks. Afternoons are for wrapping up jobs, ordering parts, and closing the books. Evenings, I head back to my little house on the edge of town, maybe cook a simple steak or pasta. And if the weather's right, I'll grab my fishing rod and head to the North Lake to clear my head from the constant hum of engines and air compressors. I'm not the type of guy who turns heads. Folks around here say I'm steady, reliable, but a bit of a loner. The most stubborn mechanic in Maplewood, my mom likes to tease with that fond smile of hers. I don't go out much, don't chase after parties or dates. Most of my old buddies have moved on to Burlington or beyond, starting families, landing office jobs. Me? I'm content with the quiet. I like watching the purple sunsets over the maple groves in the fall, the way the leaves turn fire red and gold. Being single suits me fine, or at least that's what I tell myself. No complications, no heartaches. Just me, the garage, and the rhythm of the town. That Friday afternoon in April, the air had that crisp chill to it, the kind that hints at spring but still bites a little. Sunlight slanted through the dusty windows of the garage, casting long shadows across the concrete floor. I was under Mrs. Parker's 2008 Honda Civic, flat on my back on the creeper, wrestling with a stubborn bolt that refused to budge. The radio was crackling out some old country tune, Johnny Cash, I think, and the distant rumble of trucks on the main road filtered in. I figured the next interruption would be the parts delivery guy, so when the wind chimes over the door jingled and I heard footsteps, I called out without looking, "Be with you in a sec." But the voice that answered wasn't his. It was a woman's, shaky, like she was holding back a sob. "Excuse me, is anyone here?" I rolled out from under the car, stood up, and wiped my hands on a rag that was more oil than cloth. When I looked up, I froze. Standing there in the doorway was Jessica. Everyone in Maplewood knows Jessica. She's the cashier at the town's main supermarket with that friendly Asian American heritage showing in her warm features. She's always got her hair tied up high, a gentle smile for even the grumpiest customers, the kind who complain about expired coupons. But today, she looked nothing like that. Her eyes were puffy and red, her hair a tangled mess, her supermarket uniform wrinkled like she'd slept in it. She clutched her car keys so tight her knuckles were white, and there was a streak of dried tears on her cheek. "You okay?" I asked, stepping closer. "Car trouble?" She shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "No, my car's fine." Then she took a deep breath, like she was summoning every ounce of courage she had. "I know this is going to sound completely insane, but could you pretend to be my boyfriend for just one day?" I stood there, rag still in hand, my mind reeling. For a split second, I thought it might be some prank from my old high school buddies, but looking at her face, raw, desperate, on the verge of breaking, I knew it was real. Jessica forced a weak smile, tears welling up again. "I'm so sorry to bother you like this," she said, her words tumbling out. "I wouldn't ask if I wasn't out of options." She broke down then, telling me everything through sobs. Her boss had lied to the store director, saying Jessica was engaged to keep her from getting laid off in the latest round of cuts, Tomorrow was the company's family day event, where everyone had to bring family or partners. If she showed up alone, the lie would unravel, her boss would lose face, and she'd be out of a job for sure. And she couldn't afford that. Her parents back in another state were relying on her paychecks to cover her dad's medical bills. She picked me because she'd seen me around town helping Mrs. Parker with her groceries, assisting old Tom when he lost his keys in the store parking lot. "I'll pay you," she added quickly. "It's just a few hours. Please, Wyatt." The garage felt smaller in that moment, the air thick with her desperation. I thought back to when I was 19, fresh out of high school, heading to the city for my first real job interview. I'd been scammed out of my savings by some slick-talking guy promising work, left stranded with nothing but a bus ticket home. I'd begged a stranger at the station for help, and he did. No questions, no payback. If I turned her away now, I'd toss and turn all night. I smiled, shaking my head. "Keep your money, I'll do it. But if we're fooling all of Maplewood, we need a solid story. Pet names, favorite foods, how we met. The works." Jessica burst into tears again, but this time with relief, thanking me over and over. As she left, I stared at the door, wondering what kind of crazy contract I'd just signed on for. But deep down, I knew. If I didn't step up, who would? That evening, after Jessica left the garage, I tried to shake off the weirdness of the whole situation by diving back into work. I finished up Mrs. Parker's Civic, tested the brakes, and parked it out front with a note on the dash. But my mind kept drifting back to her. Those red eyes, the way her voice cracked when she asked for help. I'd agreed without thinking it through, but now the reality was sinking in. Pretend to be her boyfriend? At a company event full of people who might know me from around town? It sounded like a bad rom-com plot, the kind where everything goes sideways. Still, I couldn't back out. Not after seeing how desperate she was. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink over the maple trees, when I heard the wind chimes jingle again. I looked up from wiping down my tools, and there she was, stepping back into the garage. This time, she carried a notebook and a handful of colored pens, like she was prepped for a study session. She'd changed out of her uniform into jeans and a gray hoodie, her hair still a bit messy, but pulled back in a loose ponytail. She looked less frantic, more determined, though her eyes still held that shadow of worry. "Hey," she said, holding up the notebook. "You free now? We should rehearse the story, right?" I chuckled, setting down the rag and motioning to my cluttered desk in the corner. "Yeah, sure. Never had to audition for a boyfriend role before, but let's give it a shot." We sat across from each other on a couple of old stools, the desk between us piled with invoices and spare parts catalogs. The garage smelled like oil and metal, with the faint hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. Jessica flipped open the notebook, her pen poised like she was about to take notes for a final exam. "Okay, we need to cover the basics. Where did we meet for the first time?" I leaned back, crossing my arms. "Well, to make it believable, let's stick close to the truth. How about at the supermarket checkout? I was buying some groceries, and you helped me with a jammed scanner or something." She nodded, jotting it down. "Good. And what do you like to eat? Any allergies? We have to know this stuff, in case someone asks about dates or whatever." "Pizza, extra spicy. Hate boiled carrots. They taste like mush. Mild pollen allergy, but nothing that knocks me out." "You?" She wrote quickly, then looked up with a small smile. "Sushi for me, no allergies. But really, that day at the exit when I helped Mrs. Thompson with her change, that's when I first noticed you being kind. We built from there, crafting this fake 8-month romance piece by piece. I suggested we say I started showing up at her checkout line on purpose, pretending to forget items just to chat. She added a cute detail about our first date at the local diner, where I supposedly spilled coffee and she laughed it off. For the proposal, since her boss had spun that tale, we went with something simple and romantic. A walk in the town park during fall, me getting down on one knee under the maple trees with a ring I'd saved up for. I even threw in that the idea came from my niece Nora, who loves fairy tales. Jessica laughed at that, her eyes lighting up for the first time that day. Actually, back in reality, your shop's that cranky old cat is famous around town for being lazy. We could say our pet name story involves him knocking over our first shared coffee. The more we talked, the easier it flowed. Laughter bubbled up between the serious notes, turning what could have been awkward into something almost fun. But as the evening wore on, the conversation shifted. Jessica paused midway through writing about our favorite movies, staring at the page. This is ridiculous, isn't it? Dragging you into my mess. I shrugged. Hey, life's full of messes. Tell me why this job means so much, beyond the paycheck. She set down the pen, her shoulders slumping. For the next half hour, she opened up about working double shifts to put herself through community college online, scraping by in her tiny apartment on the edge of town. About her parents in Ohio, her dad fighting cancer, relying on every dollar she sent for treatments. The fear of losing her job wasn't just about money. It was about letting them down, about feeling like a failure when she'd already sacrificed so much. I don't have anyone else, she admitted, voice soft. No siblings, no close friends here. It's just me trying not to fall apart. Hearing that hit close to home. I told her about my dad dying young, leaving me to learn the garage trade from Grandpa while still a teen. How I'd skipped college to keep the business afloat. The quiet nights when the loneliness crept in like fog off the lake. We're not so different, I said. I've begged strangers for help before too. Once in Burlington, I got stranded after a bad deal on parts. Some guy at a gas station lent me cash for a tow, no strings. Changed how I see things. Under the warm glow of the garage lights, with the scent of oil machines hanging in the air and crickets chirping outside, sharing those hurts felt strangely easy. Like we weren't just strangers plotting a lie. We were two people who'd been carrying invisible weights, finally setting them down for a moment. It was past 11 when Jessica glanced at her watch and stood. I should go. We've got enough for tomorrow. As she gathered her notes, she paused. Why are you really helping me? A total stranger? I met her eyes. Because I know what desperation feels like. I've been there begging for a hand up. You had the guts to ask. That means you're stronger than you think. She smiled faintly, tears glistening again, and thanked me before slipping out into the night. I watched her taillights fade down the road, then turned back to my empty kitchenette in the back of the garage. For the first time in years, the space felt less hollow, warmer somehow. Tomorrow wasn't just about playing pretend anymore. It was a chance, maybe for both of us, to feel something real. The next morning came bright and clear. The kind of Saturday in April where the Vermont sun finally shakes off winter's grip, warming the air just enough to make you forget the chill. I pulled up to Jessica's small apartment building on the east side of Maplewood, my old truck rumbling to a stop at the curb. She was waiting outside, pacing a little on the sidewalk, dressed in a light blue sundress that caught the breeze and fluttered around her knees. It was a far cry from her usual supermarket uniform. She looked fresh, almost hopeful, but her hands twisted the strap of her purse like she was holding on for dear life. When she saw me, she stopped, her eyes wide with a mix of relief and nerves. I got out and walked over, offering a smile to ease the tension. You look great, I said, meaning it. Ready for this? She nodded, but her hand trembled when I took it in mine, a small gesture we'd agreed on to sell the act. As ready as I'll ever be. Thanks again, Wyatt. I mean it. No problem, I replied, squeezing her hand gently. Just think of it like a picnic with a friend. No big deal. We drove to the supermarket in mostly silence, the radio playing soft folk tunes to fill the gaps. My mind raced through our script from last night, the little details we'd hammered out over that notebook. But underneath it all, there was this undercurrent, something I couldn't quite name. Her vulnerability from the evening before lingered, making this feel less like a favor and more like something personal. The parking lot was already buzzing when we arrived. Family Day was in full swing. Colorful balloons tied to picnic tables, banners flapping in the wind, grills smoking with burgers and hot dogs, and kids chasing each other across the grassy field out front. Laughter echoed everywhere, mixed with the sizzle of food and chatter of families. It was the kind of event that made Maplewood feel alive, a rare break from the quiet routine. Jessica's grip tightened on my arm as we walked in, her steps hesitant. Before we could even grab a plate, her boss spotted us. Mrs. Duncan, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, dressed in a bright floral blouse and khakis, waved us over with a big grin. There they are, Jessica and her fiancé. Everyone, come meet Wyatt, the hard-working mechanic from Freeman's Garage. He's as reliable as they come. A small crowd of her coworkers gathered, smiling and curious. There was Tom from Produce with his wife and 2 kids, Sarah from Customer Service holding a toddler on her hip, and a few others I recognized from quick trips to the store. They bombarded us with questions right away, the kind that felt friendly but probing. "So, how did you two meet?" Sarah asked, eyeing us with a wink. "Was it love at first sight?" Jessica glanced at me, her cheeks flushing a bit, but she jumped in smoothly, just like we'd practiced. "Well, it started at the supermarket exit. He was helping an elderly lady with her bags, and I stepped in to assist. We got talking, and the rest is history." I nodded, playing along. "Yeah, but she wouldn't give me the time of day at first. Kept showing up at her checkout line, pretending I forgot stuff just to chat. Took weeks to convince her to go out for coffee." The group laughed, and Tom slapped me on the back. "Smart man. Keep a girl like Jessica? You'd better hold on tight. She's one of the best we got." Jessica blushed deeper, her hand still in mine, and for a moment her smile looked genuine, not forced but warm, like she was actually enjoying this. I felt a strange pull in my chest, watching her relax into the role. Mrs. Duncan beamed, pulling us into photos with the group. "You two are adorable. Wyatt, if you ever need a job reference, just say the word, though I doubt you'd trade that garage for stocking shelves." As the morning rolled on, we mingled more. I grabbed us plates of food, burgers for me, a salad for her, and we sat at a picnic table with a few families. The questions kept coming. Who's the better cook? I claimed her, saying her homemade sushi was unbeatable. Any wedding plans yet? We kept it vague, mentioning a small ceremony in the park next fall. It was easy, almost too easy, the way our stories synced up. But what surprised me was how natural it felt holding her hand, laughing at her jokes, sharing glances like we really knew each other inside out. Then came the games. Mrs. Duncan announced a perfect pairs challenge over a megaphone, a trivia-style contest where couples answered questions about each other. Jessica's eyes widened in panic, but I whispered, "We've got this. Remember the notebook." We lined up with the others, and the MC, some guy from HR, fired off questions. "What's your partner's favorite food?" Jessica nailed it. "Pizza, extra spicy." "Biggest pet peeve?" I got hers right. "People who don't return shopping carts." The crowd cheered each time we matched, and by the end, we'd won a silly gift basket of store coupons. Jessica hugged me in excitement, her arms lingering a second longer than necessary, and I caught myself hugging back, feeling the warmth of her against me. In that moment, the line between fake and real blurred. I forgot we were acting. It just felt right. During the break, as we wandered toward the drink table, I overheard 2 women from the bakery section whispering nearby. They look cute, but come on, engaged out of nowhere? Probably just putting on a show for Duncan. The other snickered. Yeah, like a movie script. Too sweet to be real. Jessica froze beside me, her face paling, eyes darkening with hurt. She pulled her hand away, staring at the ground. I could see the doubt crashing over her, all that fear of being exposed, of failing. Without thinking, I gently took her elbow and guided her behind a cluster of trees at the edge of the field, away from the crowd. "Hey," I said softly, turning her to face me. "Don't let them get to you. We're killing it out there." She bit her lip, tears threatening. "But what if they're right? This is all fake? If it falls apart?" I searched her eyes, feeling a surge of protectiveness I hadn't expected. "If it's all fake, then why does it hurt so much when they doubt us? Why do I feel like punching anyone who questions you?" She looked up, surprised, and squeezed my hand. I don't know. Maybe because part of me is starting to believe it too." The words hung between us, heavy and honest. Before I could respond, the MC called everyone back for the next activity. We rejoined the group, hands linked again, but something had shifted. The rest of the afternoon passed in a haze. More games, small talk, even a group photo where Mrs. Duncan insisted we pose like a real couple. By the time we said our goodbyes, the sun was lowering, and Jessica leaned against me as we walked to the truck. On the drive back to her apartment, the silence was comfortable but charged. When I pulled up, I turned to her. "If we could pretend to be happy for one more day, would you want to?" She hesitated, her voice small. "I think I would, but I'm scared of what happens when tomorrow comes and it's over for real." I watched her go inside, her words echoing in my head all night. Sleep didn't come easy. That one sentence kept replaying, making me wonder if this act was turning into something neither of us had planned. Monday morning hit like a freight train. I woke up groggy, the events of Family Day replaying in my head like a loop I couldn't pause. Jessica's words from the drive home about being scared of tomorrow when it all ended for real had kept me tossing half the night. The garage felt quieter than usual as I flipped on the lights and started my routine. Brewing coffee in the back kitchenette, checking overnight voicemails, prepping for the day's jobs. But before I could even dive into the first oil change, my phone buzzed on the desk. It was Jessica, her name lighting up the screen. I answered quickly. "Hey, everything okay?" Her voice was shaky, edged with panic. "Wyatt, it's all falling apart. Mrs. Duncan wants to feature our engagement in the company newsletter. They're talking about an interview with you. If they dig too deep and find out it's fake, I'll be fired. And it'll drag her down too." I leaned against the workbench, my stomach knotting. The high from yesterday's success evaporated in an instant. We'd pulled off the event, but this? A newsletter meant photos, details, maybe even questions from higher-ups. If we kept lying, we'd be digging a deeper hole. If we came clean, Jessica could lose everything, her job, her stability, the money for her dad's treatments. "Take a breath," I said, trying to sound calm. "We'll figure this out. Meet me at the garage after your shift?" She agreed, her voice barely holding together, and hung up. The rest of the morning dragged. I buried myself in work, rotating tires on a minivan, diagnosing a rattling exhaust, but my mind raced. Continue the charade and risk it all blowing up later? Or tell the truth and face the fallout now? By lunch, I texted her, "Your call. If you want to keep it going, I'll back you up. But if you're done with the lies, I'll stand with you through whatever comes next." The afternoon crawled by, customers coming and going, but I barely registered their small talk. When Jessica showed up around 4, stepping into the garage with that same determined look from last night, I knew she'd made her decision. She was still in her uniform, but her eyes were resolute, no tears this time, just a quiet strength. "I can't do it anymore, Wyatt," she said, standing by the door. "The lying, the pretending. I thought I could handle it for one day, but now I want to keep my self-respect, even if it means losing the job." I nodded, feeling a weight lift even as worry settled in. All right, then we tell her the truth. Together. We drove to the supermarket in my truck, the silence between us thick but supportive. Mrs. Duncan was in her office when we knocked, buried in paperwork. She looked up, surprised but welcoming. Wyatt, Jessica, come in. I was just thinking about that newsletter spot. You two were the stars of Family Day. Jessica took a deep breath, her hand finding mine under the desk for a quick squeeze. Mrs. Duncan, we need to talk. About the engagement. It's not real. We made it up. I was scared of the layoffs and you covered for me, but I couldn't show up alone. Wyatt agreed to help as a friend. I'm so sorry for lying. I braced for the fallout, anger, disappointment, maybe even yelling. But Mrs. Duncan just leaned back in her chair, her expression shifting from confusion to something almost amused. She let out a long sigh, then chuckled softly. Oh, honey, I had a feeling. The way you two looked at each other. It was too real for a sudden engagement story. But listen, I didn't keep your job because of some fake fiancé. I fought for you because of your work ethic, the way you handle tough customers, how you stay late without complaining. I already approved your promotion to shift manager weeks ago, based on merit, not this little charade. Jessica's eyes widened, tears spilling over in relief. You knew? Not everything, Mrs. Duncan admitted with a wink. But I've been around long enough to spot real chemistry when I see it. Now go on. Sort out whatever this is between you, and Wyatt, thanks for stepping up. Not many would. We left the office in a daze, Jessica leaning on me as we walked back to the truck. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the parking lot, and for the first time since this started, she laughed, a real freeing sound. I can't believe it. It's over, and I'm not fired. You were brave, I said, opening the door for her. Proud of you. That evening, instead of heading home, I suggested the lake, the quiet spot on the north end where I went fishing, away from the town's prying eyes. We parked and walked down to the water's edge, the surface rippling gently under the fading light. Crickets chirped, and a cool breeze rustled the leaves. Jessica sat on a fallen log, hugging her knees, staring out at the horizon. Thank you, Wyatt, she said softly. For everything. I don't know what I would have done without you. I sat beside her, our shoulders brushing. It wasn't just about helping. Somewhere in all this, it started feeling real for me too. She turned, her eyes searching mine. If we tried this for real, no pretending, no fear of it ending tomorrow, do you think it could work? My heart pounded, but I didn't hesitate. Yeah, I do. You're strong, kind, and you've got this fire in you. I'd like to see where it goes if you would. Jessica smiled, leaning her head on my shoulder, her hand finding mine. I was scared I didn't deserve something good, but with you, I want to try. I wrapped my arm around her, feeling our heartbeats sync up as the stars began to peek out. For the first time in a long while, the future didn't feel so lonely. From that evening by the lake, everything changed. Not in some dramatic, overnight way, but slowly, like the season shifting in Maplewood. Jessica and I didn't rush into labels or announcements. We just started seeing each other for real, no scripts, no pretending. It began with simple things. Morning coffee at the little diner on Main Street, where we'd sit in a booth by the window, talking about our days without the weight of lies hanging over us. She'd tell me about her classes at the community college, how she was pushing through despite the exhaustion, and I'd share stories from the garage, like the time Doc Jenkins tried to fix his own radiator and ended up flooding his driveway. We'd laugh, our hands brushing across the table, and for the first time, it felt effortless. Afternoons, she'd swing by the garage after her shift, sometimes with a sandwich or a fresh apple pie from the supermarket's bakery. For the best mechanic in town, she'd say with a wink, and I'd pull her into the back office for a quick kiss, away from prying eyes. I taught her the basics of changing a spark plug one weekend, her hands getting greasy as she laughed at her own clumsiness. See, not so scary, I told her, wiping a smudge from her cheek. In return, she showed me how to make her mom's old recipe for American-style pho, a comforting broth with noodles and herbs that warmed the whole kitchen. Those moments built something solid between us, brick by brick, without the pressure of performance. Jessica thrived in her new role as shift manager. She gained confidence, handling inventory and training new hires with a quiet authority I hadn't seen before. The promotion meant better hours, a small raise, and less stress about sending money home to her parents. She even started talking more openly about her dad's treatments, sharing updates over dinner without the fear of everything crumbling. I expanded the garage a bit too, took on a part-time apprentice, a kid from the high school auto shop class, to help with the workload. Life got busier, but in the best way, filled with purpose, shared goals, and someone to come home to. My mom warmed up to Jessica faster than I expected. At first, she was skeptical. That girl from the supermarket? How'd this happen so quick? But after inviting her over for Sunday dinner, watching Jessica help in the kitchen, and listen patiently to Mom's stories about Dad, she softened. "She's got a good heart, Wyatt," Mom said one night, patting my arm. "Don't let her slip away." Friends around town noticed too, the way we'd walk hand in hand down the leaf-strewn paths in the fall, or how I'd pick her up after work with a coffee in hand. Whispers turned to smiles. Maplewood might be small, but it roots for its own when things feel right. As the months passed, our bond deepened. We faced small hurdles, like the time her dad's health took a dip, and she spent nights worrying, curled up on my couch while I held her. Or when a big repair job at the garage went south, and I came home frustrated, only for her to listen without judging, reminding me I wasn't alone anymore. Those challenges didn't break us. They strengthened what we had. We learned each other's rhythms, her love for quiet evenings with a book, my habit of tinkering with old radios in the garage. And in those quiet times, I'd catch myself thinking how this all started with a desperate plea in my shop, a lie that somehow uncovered the truth. A year later, on a warm late summer day, I knew it was time. We'd gone back to the lake, our spot, where everything had shifted from fake to real. The water lapped gently at the shore, birds calling overhead as the sun dipped toward the horizon. Jessica was sitting on the same log, sketching something in her notebook, her hair catching the golden light. I knelt down in front of her, pulling a simple silver ring from my pocket. Nothing flashy, just honest, like us. "Jessica," I said, my voice steady despite the nerves. Our start was a little crazy. A fake date, a bunch of lies to keep things afloat. But what we built after, that's real. I want to spend the rest of my days with you, through the quiet mornings and the tough nights. Will you marry me? She stared at the ring, tears streaming down her face, but her smile was radiant. Wyatt? Yes. 1,000 times yes. She pulled me into a hug, whispering through sobs, "Thank you for believing in me, for starting this, for loving me enough to stay." The wedding was small, just like we talked about, on the lakeshore with family and a handful of friends. My mom walked me down the aisle, beaming. Jessica's parents made the trip from Ohio. Her dad's stronger now thanks to the treatments she'd helped fund. Mrs. Duncan was there too, toasting us with a wink about how our fake engagement turned into the real deal. We exchanged vows under a canopy of turning leaves, promising to face whatever came with honesty and heart. No grand reception, just a picnic with laughter, stories, and the people who mattered. Looking back, sometimes love sneaks in through the back door, starting with a white lie or a desperate favor. But it only sticks when you drop the act, when you choose to be vulnerable and real. Jessica taught me that, and in return, I got to watch her bloom into someone unafraid of her own strength. Our life now is simple. The garage humming during the day, evenings filled with shared meals and dreams for the future. And every time I see her smile across the room, I know we didn't just pretend to be happy. We chose it for real.